Seems I gotta do another one of these stupid political videos. What a stupid way to start the year off. Alright, let's do this. Same shit, different year. Hey everyone, it's the Koopa Man. I hope you had a good holiday break. Oh? Why did it take me this long to come back? Well, I was sort of working on some stuff in the background. Some of it related to the channel, some not. Might get into it soon, but not now. Anyway, let's jump into this week's topic. It was always political. You hear that phrase a lot these days from a certain group of people, don't you? A certain group who wants to make everything political. And by political, I mean propaganda suited to their personal politics. What am I even talking about, I hear you ask? Lately there has been a pushback to political propaganda being inserted into entertainment media. Video games, books, movies, TV shows, etc. And people who the propaganda is catering to always come back with the same retort. It was always political. They then point to examples where politics were mentioned in the past in whatever it is they're talking about to pretend that it's some sort of grand own. This is, however, ignoring the fact that they are cherry-picking the point of contention and strawmanning the opposing argument, but considering the group I'm talking about, leftists, it's not all that surprising. Modern leftists believe everything is a political statement, so them believing it was always political is no surprise. The problem, of course, isn't that there are politics at all. The problem is that the media in question is extremely politically biased, almost always in one direction, and being used to promote real-life politics at the cost of telling a story. Or to put it in another way, it's this image. All games are political, says the extremely smart individual who can't tell the difference between Metal Gear Solid, BioShock, and this image. Let's look at some examples and see what I mean by this, shall we? From Vox.com. Star Wars has always been political, here's why the alt-right is claiming otherwise. This is one of a number of articles claiming the new Star Wars works, specifically the sequel trilogy and its companions, aren't the first movies to push leftist politics. Specifically The Last Jedi, which had an explicit anti-capitalist screed inserted into it that deviated from the actual plot and was just there to promote Rian Johnson's personal politics. Was Star Wars political? Yes, it's in its very nature being inspired by pulp action stories which had explicit pro-American political messages in quite a few of them. The thing is though, was Star Wars leftist/pro-Marxist? Well, to answer that question, we gotta answer this question. What kind of government was the Galactic Empire? To answer that question, let's ask someone from the Star Wars galaxy, shall we? Gonzalez? Now, the thing you need to understand about the Galactic Empire is how it got there to begin with. Fortunately, I am old enough to have lived through all of it and then some. Part of the advantage of being a Koopa turtle and all. In the waning days of the Republic, the Galactic Republic, which had actually been the latest iteration of that form of government following the new Sith Wars and the Battle of Ruusan, had been overtaken by layers of bureaucracy as well as catering only to special interest groups. For example, the Trade Federation had their own seat in the Galactic Senate, separate from their home planet of Cadon Immordia, and the leadership of Cadon Immordia was effectively a puppet of the Trade Federation, giving the Trade Federation's viceroy additional votes in the Senate. There were anywhere from 100,000 to 1.3 million planets within 10,000 to 40,000 star systems within the Republic, each represented by 2,000 senators appointed by their planet. Seems incredibly disproportionate, doesn't it? Well, it gets a lot worse. Not all star systems were represented equally. The senators of the core worlds held a lot more sway within the Republic than those in the Mid-Rim, and the Outer Rim territories were mostly a lawless wasteland where spice dealing, slave trading, and other illicit trades were practiced, and Republic credits held no value, nor Republic authority held any power. Then everything changed when the Trade Federation, in protest of what they saw as unfair taxation targeting their companies specifically, which to be fair it sort of was, performed a blockade of the Mid-Rim world known as Naboo. This would escalate into a full-on invasion after the leader of the Republic, Chancellor Finis Valorum, sent a pair of Jedi to de-escalate the situation, which had been the equivalent of sending Wolverine to Moscow to de-escalate the invasion of Ukraine. When Valorum failed to do anything about the invasion of Naboo and was called out by its queen, Padme Amidala, it was shown that the central authority of the Republic had become too weak to act, and Valorum was ousted from the chancellorship and replaced by someone who could get the job done, Naboo native chief Palpatine. The issue is, however, over the years, Palpatine would increase his centralized power to make the Senate more subservient to his will, rather than his own will being subservient to the Senate, and manipulate both sides of the separatist crisis in which the galactic powers that be, such as the banking clan, the military-industrial complex, and various commerce guilds, seceded from the Republic to form their own government, an event that would afterwards be known as the Clone Wars, where he took advantage of the situation to seize emergency powers to form a galactic army of the Republic, that answer chiefly to him. At the end of the Clone Wars, he then faked a coup by the Jedi to eliminate them as a threat to his power and reorganize the Republic into the Empire. Those like who the Koopa Man is talking about may have already drawn comparisons of the Emperor to a certain Austrian painter, and they are not far off. The thing though is the Empire is not some sort of right-wing power as they seem to think it is. To be fair, the painter's Germany wasn't either, but regardless, the entire build-up was very deliberate. Through the Clone Wars, Emperor Palpatine was able to take power away from the war merchants, independent commerce guilds, and independent banks, and absorb that power into his own as leader of the Empire. He also used the Jedi, the foremost religious order of the galaxy, as a scapegoat, pushing the galaxy into more atheistic sentiments. It should be no surprise then, by the year of the Battle of Yavin, we would hear people complaining about things like this.
I know it's a long shot, but if I don't find them, I'll do what I can on my own. It's what we always talked about, Luke. I'm not going to wait around for the Empire to draft me into service. The rebellion is spreading, and I want to be on the side I believe in.
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm stuck here.
You'll get your chance to get off this rock. You're going to the academy next term, aren't you?
Not likely. I had to cancel my application.
What for?
My uncle needs me.
Oh.
No, I'm serious. The Sand people have been getting really crazy. They've even raided the outskirts of Anchorhead.
Come on, Luke. Your uncle could hold off a whole colony of sand people with one blaster.
I know. But we've got almost enough evaporators to make the place pay off. I have to stay one more season. I can't leave him now.
What good's all your uncle's work if the Empire takes it over? You know they've already started to nationalize commerce in the Central Systems? It won't be long before your uncle's just a tenant, slaving for the greater glory of the Empire.
No, that's not gonna happen here. You said yourself the Empire won't even mess with this old rock.
Things can change.
The Empire nationalized independent commerce within its realm, eliminated religion, outlawing being a follower of said religion, as well as, when we'd go on to find out later in the movie, eliminated the last vestiges of democracy in favor of a rule of moth governors over their territorial holdings. While this would resemble a medieval-style feudal state, it's anything but, as this would be the exact system of government enacted under the Stalinist reforms of the Soviet Union, meaning that the comparisons to the Austrian painter may fit, but those to the mustachioed Georgian fit even better. Back to you, Koopa Man! Huh, who knew Gonzalez could be so scholarly? He's right though, that if Star Wars is political, it's very much not in the favor of leftists. This sort of goes against the personal politics of George Lucas, who leans very much to the left. So why would he write a story where his preferred style of politics were the bad guys? Simple. He wanted to tell a good story. That's it. He wasn't trying to promote his agenda, just give people a story about rebels and space wizards fighting an evil empire and its sorcerous overlords. So the claim that Star Wars was always political by political leftists is a sort of own goal when you have the actual knowledge of the work in question. But it's far from the only thing they try to claim is theirs. They will even claim that the entire field of science is leftist politics. This is usually a claim made by leftist Reddit atheists. You know the types. The types who go, yeah, well, God is fake, debate me, bro, on Twitter all day. And if anyone has seen my Twitter, you know what I think of these losers. But let's put aside the fact that if not up to 90% of scientific progress has been either funded or developed by either the church or Christian scientists living in the Western world, up to and including the theory of evolution, heliocentrism, and of course, the Big Bang Theory. Do the left truly believe in science? Well, let me answer that with this one question. What is a woman? If they cannot answer this query scientifically speaking, that a woman is an adult human female with XX chromosomes as opposed to XY, then they truly do not believe in science, do they? They're just using it as a cudgel against their opponents, of which they seem to know nothing about. I could go on about how the left love to attack doctors against the vaccine mandates, or climatologists against climate change, but the what is a woman example is so blatant that it sort of says everything that I could say. Alright, let's lightning round through the next few examples. Why horror has always been political. This sort of goes hand in hand with the left making things like Babadook, Freddy Krueger, and Pennywise into leftist queer icons. Monsters that exclusively prey on children, by the way. But is horror leftist political? Not really, especially since most of the ghouls and ghosts are taken down by holy artifacts, and most of the victims tend to be those who are sinful and have it coming. Except when the victims are children. But we already discussed that. Art has always been political. Well, art usually has a message behind it and can be used to promote political messages such as Picasso's Guernica or Thomas Lee's The 2,000-Yard Stare, but the message isn't always necessarily leftist, or even political. Unless you want to tell me that 15 Sunflowers in a Vase by Vincent van Gogh has some sort of deep meaning about the evils of capitalism, though there is probably some deranged nutcase who actually believes that. The FBI has always been political. Do we really want to open that can of worms? Sesame Street was always political. I'm sorry, what? The children's puppet show, made to teach the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, is political. Go home, New York Times, you're drunk. So, what's the problem with all of these? Well, I had to look up on Quora, bad idea, I know, but I found an answer that I'll read verbatim that sums it up very well. For me, it is simply because the political message is rammed down your throat in many of the newer films. Then again, you get a lot of films that are being made/remade simply to ram a woke message across. Two that spring up to mind immediately are Ocean's 8 and Ghostbusters remake. Even the new Charlie's Angels tried to ram a message down the audience's throat in the first 10 minutes, and this is from a franchise that had been previously shown that empowered women can be as good as men at solving crime. Historical accuracy is ignored for the sake of inclusiveness, and the story takes second place. It has reached a point where I stopped watching a film or TV series in the first 10 minutes if it's clear that it's trying to shoehorn in every woke character. There is one program I switched off a couple of months ago, I don't remember the name, because in the first 15 minutes the main family consisted of a white father, a POC mother, Asian appearing lesbian daughter, and a transsexual son/daughter. I mean, seriously? It didn't help that the writing was atrociously sanctimonious and the acting was more wooden than Pinocchio. Movies and TV programs have all contained some kind of political message, but it was there in the background. The film was made to be enjoyed. These days, film producers don't seem to care if the movie is watchable. All they care about is, have we ticked enough boxes? Modern media isn't being protested because it's political. It's being rejected because it's politically biased, and the bias is skewing towards a distasteful form of politics built on envy, hatred, and spite. This is what happens when you focus primarily on pushing an agenda over entertaining an audience. Eventually, the audience will get fed up being talked down to and fight back. That's what's happening in games, movies, in comics, in everything. If the culture war brain rot setting in on certain content creators is proof, this would also be the case were it the other way around as well. If games and movies were just as blunt in the other direction, shoving shallow jabs at former Vice President Biden, it'd just feel as pandering and artificial. Nobody gives a shit about Ukrainian Krogan's Fallout 4 mod after all. So in the end, is everything political? If your identity hinges on being political 100% all of the time, and that every blade of grass is a statement against the horrors of a capitalist, patriarchal, right-wing Nazi state, then it might be. However, if you aren't a deranged lunatic with the IQ of a grapefruit, then no, it isn't. And it shouldn't be either. People use entertainment to escape things like politics. Inserting them into entertainment will just make them angry. And angry customers don't pay the bills or put bread on the table. Maybe someday the message will get across, but it'll take a lot of political artists going hungry to get there. Until then, this has been the Koopa Man. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up and subscribe. It really helps with the algorithm. And until next time, game on.